Welcome to the deep dive, where we dig into your sources to uncover fresh perspectives. Today, we're exploring a topic I find incredibly thought provoking. It's about how our core beliefs, maybe our personal faith, can really shape and enrich our professional journey. Is your faith just something you sort of leave at the door when you clock in? Or does it genuinely shape your work? And what if your job isn't just a paycheck, but actually a place where your deepest beliefs come alive? Give your work real meaning.
That's a powerful way to frame it. And for this deep dive, we've actually pulled from a really diverse set of sources. Quite interesting stuff. We're looking at academic insights from Amberton University. They often focus on adult education, career development. Then there's practical guidance from Forward, which is an organization supporting Christian women in their careers. And theological reflections, too, from places like Jake's Divinity and the Gospel Coalition Australia, plus some compelling historical examples. So our mission today really is to pull out those crucial insights to help you see how your faith can be lived out, Monday through Sunday, moving beyond just thinking of work as a job, maybe towards seeing it as a deeper calling, something with impact.
Yeah, and it feels like such a timely discussion. The whole global workplace it's constantly shifting, isn't it? We've got remote work, blurring lines, making it harder to switch off. And honestly, so many people are feeling it. You hear about widespread burnout, maybe even a kind of spiritual disconnect in the daily grind. It's a real struggle, finding meaning when you're just trying to get through the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's precisely where our sources start offering, a different perspective. Amberton University, for instance, really highlights this idea that true fulfillment often clicks in when people align their career with what they feel are, say, God-given gifts and purpose, which naturally raises that question: are we just working in jobs, or are we actually serving a calling?
That difference between job and calling, yeah, that feels really key. So it's not just about what you do, but maybe how you approach it. The idea seems to be about spotting those skills you have, those passions. Maybe you're great with details or really connect with customers, or you're a natural problem solver, and seeing those not just as abilities, but as some traditions call them spiritual gifts or talents, things you're meant to use well, responsibly. And what Amberton's research adds to that, that principle from Colossians, whatever you do, work heartily,
Yeah.
is how seeing tasks as stewardship actually boosts engagement,
Even in
innovation, right?
Yeah.
Even in secular places. It translates that deeper purpose into actual performance.
It absolutely does. And it definitely broadens how we might think about a calling. If we look historically, think about George Mueller.
Oh.
Many know him for the orphanages, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before that full-time ministry, he actually worked as an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actively trusting for divine provision, even in that very technical job. It really shows that a calling isn't just for, pastors or missionaries. It can show up powerfully right where you are in any profession.
That Mueller example is really interesting. Do the sources, do they give any detail on how he did that? Like trusting for provision as an engineer, what could someone today take from that practically if they're in a similar, secular job?
Yeah, it's fascinating. The accounts suggest his trust wasn't passive at all. It was quite active. He made commitments like not going into debt, being clear about needs, and really trying to follow what he felt was divine guidance in his work decisions. Our sources, particularly Jake's Divinity, suggest that today this could translate into, working with excellence, for starters, making ethical choices, viewing your own growth and how you tackle problems as acts of faith, maybe, not just self-promotion. It's about cultivating that same kind of internal mindset, stewardship, like you said.
That's a great practical angle. And bringing it to today, Charmaine Solomon from Forward, she made this really sharp observation. She said, within secular workplaces, people gravitate to you when you declare your faith. It kind of speaks to authenticity, doesn't it? So as you're listening, maybe think about this. Have you ever felt that tug in your everyday work? Like maybe when you were really nailing a presentation or genuinely connecting with a customer, where your skills and that deeper sense of purpose just click together.
Right. So if we start seeing our work as this deeper calling, the next logical step is, okay, how do we live that out day to day, consistently? And that's where our sources really zero in on integrity, describing it not just as, basic honesty, but almost as a form of daily worship, especially when nobody's looking. Jake's Divinity emphasizes that this sort of unseen integrity, it builds this internal strength. It prepares you for the bigger visible challenges, makes your character your best asset, really.
And what really jumps out from the sources is how ancient this idea is. Proverbs 22.1 saying, a good name is more desirable than great riches. It's a clear statement about priorities, isn't it? Money comes and goes, but your reputation, your character that endures.
And it's not just theory. We can point to people like William Wilberforce. His unwavering integrity in the rough and tumble world of politics didn't just win him respect, it famously fueled major social reform, like the abolition of the slave trade. He
Right.
really lived his convictions publicly.
Okay, but when you talk about daily worship through integrity, is there a risk it feels heavy, like another thing to add to the pressure cooker instead of bringing freedom? Do the sources touch on that?
That's a really insightful question. Yeah. Our sources, especially the Gospel Coalition Australia, they stress it's not about adding more tasks. Not at all. It's more about seeing the tasks you already do through a different lens. It can transform things that feel mundane, like how you answer an email, how you deal with a tricky client, into moments with actual purpose.
Yeah.
So the motivation shifts, right? From external pressure, maybe pleasing a boss, to internal conviction. And that ultimately should lead to more freedom and consistency, not less, not more burden.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And practically, maybe this looks like, I don't know, setting a personal faith at work pledge just for yourself. Like committing to real honesty in emails, being fair in negotiations, showing kindness even when things are frantic and stressful. It's about that consistency. So here's something for you to think about. Was there a time you were maybe tempted to cut corners? We've all been there. How could gospel integrity, meaning integrity really rooted in your core beliefs, maybe faith-inspired values, how could that specifically shine through for you in that kind of scenario? But even with, a strong sense of calling and trying to live with integrity, let's be real, modern work can be absolutely draining, which brings us straight to burnout. It feels like it's everywhere, and our sources have this pretty stark statistic. 45% of believers globally feel overworked, nearly half.
That's a huge number, and it really highlights why resilience is so critical. But the sources offer a powerful counter-narrative here, drawing on foundational texts like Matthew 11, the invitation, "Come to me, I will give you rest." That's a profound promise, isn't it? Relief from burdens. And also Romans 8.28, that deep conviction that God works all things for good for those aligned with his purpose. Insights from both Jake's Divinity and Amberton University echo this, reminding us that even in the really tough seasons, there's a deeper purpose, a deeper provision maybe at play.
Yeah, I think of that story about Tim Challies, the one the Gospel Coalition shared, how Romans 8.28 was just this incredible anchor for him during intense grief. It wasn't just words on a page, it was sustenance. And it's easy to talk about Sabbath rhythms, right? But doing it, that's the hard part. I mean, personally, just carving out 15 minutes for quiet can feel like climbing a mountain some days. But the sources really stress how necessary it is.
Absolutely necessary. And practically speaking, this means we need tangible tools for resilience. Our sources talk about embracing Sabbath rhythms, and that means intentional rest and renewal, not just stopping work. Taking deliberate prayer breaks during the day. Even considering things like retreats for, spiritual rejuvenation. These aren't optional extras or luxuries. They're really essential for guarding your soul, preventing that complete exhaustion.
So what does this mean for you listening right now? What's maybe one rhythm or one boundary you need to set up this week to guard your soul, find some genuine rest? Could be simple, blocking 15 minutes for quiet, or maybe drawing a line on checking emails after a certain hour, something concrete. And while we're thinking about resilience and rest in the day-to-day, we also need to talk about those big shifts, those major turning points, career transitions. They can be really unsettling, can't they? A new role, a different direction, it can challenge your identity, definitely push you out of your comfort zone.
They certainly can. But again, our sources frame these transitions as huge opportunities for courage, for growth. We see these powerful examples in Scripture. Think of Esther, think of Daniel. They stepped into massive new roles, often in foreign, potentially hostile environments, with just remarkable courage and faith, and they ended up shaping their worlds because of it.
And what's great is this isn't just ancient history or theory. Amberton University, you mentioned them earlier, they actually integrate faith into their career counseling, helping people navigate those shifts, acknowledging the spiritual side of these big life decisions right alongside the practical stuff like resumes and interviews.
Exactly. And if you're facing a transition or maybe thinking about one, our sources offer a kind of practical guide. It starts with, praying through the decision, seeking clarity, guidance, makes sense. Then talking to trusted faith mentors, people who've maybe been through similar things and can offer wisdom. Then maybe thinking about your resume. Could it be faith-infused, not overtly preachy, but reflecting your core values, your sense of calling, how your principles actually shape your work ethic. And ultimately, it boils down to leaning on a higher power, trusting that power as the author of your next chapter, providing direction.
So here's a final question for you to maybe just sit with today. If you weren't afraid, If failure or the unknown wasn't a factor, what new role, what new direction would you genuinely step into?
Wow, this deep dive has really covered some ground, hasn't it? We've gone from seeing career as a calling to the nitty-gritty of integrity, finding real rest from burnout, and finding courage for those big transitions. It's been a rich discussion, and maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on all this. As you reflect on how your faith can shape your work, think beyond just your own fulfillment, as important as that is. Consider how these principles, calling, integrity, rest, courage, how they might actually ripple outwards. How could they start to transform your workplace culture? Influence your relationships with colleagues, with clients? What might that look like?